5-game slate this evening. So give me your guard over $7,500, Gare Bear.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of guys to choose from, obviously. Some big name injuries on this small slate, and there's a glut around 8K, specifically at point guard, where you find Chris Paul, you've got CJ McCollum, and you've got SGA. And I think I'm going to lean to the cheapest of the three. Josh Giddey not playing for the Thunder. I know we don't spend a lot of time thinking about the Thunder, but his usage rate, SGA's, skyrockets when Giddey has not been on the court so far in 2021. It goes up to 35.1%. He's averaging 1.24 DraftKings points per minute when Giddey's been off the floor so far this season. And we just saw Gilgeous-Alexander play over 35 minutes in last night's game against the Rockets. Maybe they're a little bit more conservative with his playing time on the second night of a back-to-back. We know how, let's say, overly cautious the Thunder have been with SGA in the past. But I think this is a pretty good matchup, too. We talked earlier in the week about just how good point guards have been against the Memphis Grizzlies so far this season, the second most DraftKings points per game to the position. So I'll lean with SGA on a slate where there's a bunch of guys at 8K that you could really go with.
All right, Whalen, hook me up with your guard over $7,500.
I do like the SGA call by Garion, but I'm going to go DeJounte Murray tonight at Portland. He's at 9,800, so you are going to have to pay up a little bit. But I don't love a lot of the options at forward, so I'm a little more comfortable spending up at the guard position. But Murray's got at least 48 DraftKings points in each of his last 4 games, 6 of his last 7. He's been over 54 DraftKings points in 5 of those 7 games. So he's truly settled in as kind of this breakout guy that we thought he might be this season in San Antonio. And then you look at the matchup, Portland already a bottom 3 defense in the NBA. They're 27th against the point guard position when it comes to DraftKings points allowed. You take away Damian Lillard, not that really affects your defense all that much, but you're replacing him with Anthony Simons, who's one of the worst guard defenders in the league. Like, at least Damian Lillard puts in some effort. You can't always say that about Anthony Simons. Norman Powell could miss this game as well. Nasir Little, another long kind of defensive-minded body on the wing, already been ruled out of this game. So even at full strength, the Blazers have very few options who you feel good about throwing at DeJounte Murray. Certainly not McCollum, not Lillard, not Simons. You take away some of those key guys, and I think this turns into an even better matchup for the Spurs and for DeJounte Murray.
Okay, Mr. Friar, who is worth dropping all the pennies on here at guard?
Well, I'm always going to be a fan of playing DeJounte Murray, but I'm going to lean more towards Garion's end of the spectrum tonight, where he's got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander going. But I'm going to go with CJ McCollum, also in that mid 8K range, because this is this game has the highest total tonight. Portland, San Antonio. No Damian Lillard, of course, for a while. Norman Powell out again. Could be out again today. I'm sorry, he's questionable. Obviously Nick was hitting on Little is out as well. So CJ is going to be the guy in the short term, and his usage rate goes from 24.1% to 31.5% with Lillard off the court. And we just saw in last game where he popped off 26 shots, 11 of which are 3-pointers. Those are both significant increases from his season average, and that's against the lowly Pistons. I know the Spurs haven't been great either, but McCollum's got to carry that kind of workload against that bad of a team. We're going to expect that again tonight against the Spurs. So because you're getting a quality player at the end of all this with an increase in volume, you got to take advantage of that.
Okay, Whalen, now I need you to kind of dig deep here. We need to find the men of the people. Give me a guard under $4,500.
Yeah, so if you're going to maybe spend up with SGA or with DeJounte Murray, I think you could pair those guys with someone like Killian Hayes at 4,400. Back-to-back 21 DraftKings points game. He's been going off lately in Detroit. But really, I look at this as a potential blowout scenario where you're playing a team in Phoenix that's won 17 in a row. I mean, this game could be wildly out of hand by halftime or by the end of the third quarter, even with Devin Booker not playing. And I think that maybe turns into a scenario where we see a little bit more of Killian Hayes. He has a little bit more license to do things on the offensive end if this game is a blowout in garbage time. I think the same goes for Corey Joseph at 4,300 in Detroit. And then if you look at the other side of this game, I think Cam Payne at 4,100 is going to be a relatively popular option with Devin Booker out. And I think you could say the same thing about Landry Shamet at 3,100. I almost feel like DraftKings is baiting us into trying to play Landry Shamet at 3,100. He's going to be super popular, I think, as a pivot without Devin Booker.
All right, Friar, what do you want to do here? I need under $4,500 in the guard department.
Yeah, I'm going to stay with the Blazers again, and I never thought I'd say this year, but I'm actually going to go with Tony Snell at 3K against the Spurs. He started with Lillard and Powell out, and again, Powell is questionable, and with Little out as well, that there's still going to be those minutes there for Snell, even if he's not starting. And when he got those extra minutes last game, he almost gave the people who drafted him 6 times value, which I know doesn't take much when he's at dirt cheap price, but you're trying to go for a salary saver here, and he's going to get opportunities, and that's all we can really hope for in this situation. So save a lot with Tony Snell tonight, and you got a little opportunity to you're going to get that value back at minimum.
Yeah, Gary, you got someone who could really return some value for us here?
Yeah, along the same lines as Nick, I think you really can start to focus in on Portland's reserves. It's just a matter of picking who you trust, because it's not exactly like an amazing list of players. And again, this is all really, it hinges on Norman Powell being unavailable tonight, because you'd think he'd probably log somewhere in the realm of 35 to 38 minutes if he's healthy and able to go at a high usage rate as well. But the thing with Tony Snell, even if he plays 30 minutes, he's just such a low usage rate player. I can't really trust him. I always come back to that one Bleacher Report graphic of just Tony Snell 0, 0, 0, 0, 32 minutes. Like, that's such a Tony Snell game. So you got to find someone who's got a little bit more of a quick trigger on that bench. And thankfully, they've got 2 guys in the form of Dennis Smith Jr. at 3,500 and Ben McLemore at 3,100. Both of those guys had usage rates above 30% in their last game. I don't feel great about it, but not a ton of obvious value on this slate as of right now, below 4K. I'd lean McLemore. You're going to need him to hit his shots, but he's never been a guy to turn down a shot. So probably 8 to 11 field goal attempts for McLemore tonight if Norman Powell doesn't play.
All right, Gary, we got a little under 4 minutes to go in the show. Let's go to a forward who is going to cost you more than $7,000.
I'm going to go with Scotty Barnes at 7,500. He's just been stuffing the stat sheet as of late. His last 5 games, he's averaging over 35 minutes a game, over 37 DraftKings points per game. He's also hit 10 of his last 21 three-pointers, which has been kind of an interesting development for Scotty Barnes. There's definitely some blowout potential in this game, which is somewhat worrisome, but I think that's mitigated just by Nick Nurse and how he plays his rotations. He really is not a blowout coach. He's going to play these guys and play them a lot. Keep an eye on Gary Trent, though. If Trent does play, another high-usage player, I think he could definitely impact Scotty Barnes' overall usage rate, but if Trent's not playing, I think Barnes is at a great price.
Dude, everyone's jumping on the Barnes train right now as he's shooting up those season rankings. Mr. Friar, forward over $7,000.
I am one of those guys that's jumping on the Barnes train. I'm right there with Garion. All I want to add is that Milwaukee's on the second leg of a back-to-back. And then I know they're middle of the pack against small forward and power forwards in terms of fantasy standpoint, but the Bucks just let Kelly Oubre, Miles Bridges, and Gordon Hayward each score above their points per game average on Wednesday. So I think this one's a no-brainer tonight.
Whalen.
Yeah, I like Barnes. I mean, I'm not going to steer you away from spending up for Giannis at 12,000. I mean, every game at this point is like a great matchup for him, but Toronto especially should be a situation where he can feast even on the back-to-back. But, I think I'm going to end up spending up at guard, probably kind of try to game manage, the forward position and go with Chris Middleton at 7,200. You can pretty much lock him in for 35 to 40 DraftKings points every single night.
Give me forward under $4,500, Whalen. We got 2 minutes to go in the show.
All right, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl in OKC at 4,400. No Derek Favors. Mike Muscala also likely to sit this game out for OKC, so they're without their big 2 in the front court. And JRE already played 20-plus minutes in 12 straight games, so I like him a lot at 4,400.
Garion.
Nick mentioned it earlier. I don't feel great about it, but if Landry Shamet starts tonight, for whatever reason, he has small forward eligibility on this slate, so you can stick him at forward. It feels wrong to do so, but at 3,100, guy's a 41% career three-point shooter. It's the Pistons. I could see him bringing back 6x, 7x value.
All right, Friar.
I'm with Whalen on this one. JRE's got to be the guy tonight. He had a big night last game and going to them again tonight against the Grizzlies.